Hi, welcome to Business Link, the Lincoln Chamber of Commerce's podcast to talk about exciting things going on in the community of Lincoln. I'm Jason Ball, President and CEO of your Chamber of Commerce. I'm here in our offices at the AOI Podcast Studio, and we're starting out just a little bit different this time because today I want to ask our guests to please come on up, step out from behind the camera. I'm so excited to be joined today by Andy Seiler, who runs Cuemotion,
yes,
his company, and is also the production studio for a lot of projects that we do, but all of these podcasts that you have been enjoying. Andy, welcome to your podcast you've been doing with us.
Thank you so much. It's really exciting and different to be on this side of the camera. Clearly, I'm so used to being over there, where it's like, oh yeah, just be natural. Just we can cut that out. But I always forget, when I'm here.
Now, how often do you are you on this side of the camera? I mean, other than for like testing purposes or testing the lighting.
Not very much anymore. No, very rarely. Yeah. Very rarely. So.
Well, for folks that may not know, we've been doing these podcast recording with Cuemotion for a long time. But if you've been to our annual Celebrate Businesses, or if you've been on our website, there's some video work that they have done. And I think everybody that sees it will agree. It's very professional, very polished, and it's certainly superior to what I could do with my iPhone. Yeah. So we're thrilled to have you on the team. But Andy, tell us your story. How did you end up doing Cuemotion? What's your background been? How did you end up here in Lincoln doing what you're doing?
Yeah. So my background for production is basically it's a pretty short and easy story, but my brother, he's this like hopeless romantic, right? And growing up, we always were in his videos and doing stuff, and he was making this video for his girlfriend, and it was a Valentine's thing, and he had cut the whole thing, I remember, and it was done, and then I think like his computer crashed or something. And I'm 5 years younger than him, and he's like, oh, I can't recut this or whatever, but because he had to go and set up, he was like building a set or something. And so I was like, well, let me see what I can do if I can like do something with it. And so I just remember jumping on the computer and figuring out and getting his cut back because I'd seen it. And so like better than what it was. Yeah. And then it's just been, ever since then, I'm like, I really like this. And so I've been editing and doing video work in this like kind of like capacity, getting, paid for it since, before high school.
Oh, wow.
Just like doing little things here and there. But yeah. So that was it. Let's see, what brought me to Lincoln? Union College. So it brought me out here. I actually had a small like detour in life where I was like, oh, I think I want to be a helicopter pilot, and so I went through some like tests. So I went through some tests.
Well, that is different than
it's a little bit different. I was like, I'm going to be a helicopter pilot, and then they're like, oh, you're colorblind and you can't see worth anything. And so I was like, shoot, I can't be a helicopter pilot. And so then we were just like, well, I'll just go up to Union College and go to school there. And so that's kind of what brought me here. And, there's a few years of just kind of like working and going to college. I spent a year in Prague, and then I came back and I remember I was kind of like didn't know where I should go. I kind of resisted the LA, call. I didn't really want to go out there. Yeah. I really liked Lincoln, just being here. I had a lot of friends, and I'm from Texas originally. And so I came up and I was like, well, if I find a job up here, I'll stay. So I came to Lincoln, car packed, didn't unpack it until I found a job. I got a job, not editing or doing any production work, but I got a job at Bison Witches. Bartending there.
A delicious place in our wonderful downtown.
And then a few weeks later, I got an editing job with it was an animation company called Outpost 12 Studios, and they were just in the top floor of the Gold's building there, and that's kind of like the start of my, I think, more professional career within this industry.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
So is it fair to say you chose to stay in Lincoln? I mean, you had opportunities. You could have done this work in a lot of different cities. Lincoln is home for you.
Yeah, it is. It is definitely now. So I worked in Lincoln for a while. Yeah. Started Cuemotion while I was at Outpost 12 Studios because I've always been, I've always known I wanted to start something, and so we started with weddings. Did weddings for a few years, but during that time, I remember I had asked Rachel, she's my wife, asked her to marry me, and she said yes. But it was like the day, I know the day after, I was like, I have to make money. Yeah. Like I have to actually make money. And so I looked around, and Craigslist was a thing back then. I found a editing job in Denver, Colorado, doing editing for shows. Yeah. And so we ended up taking it. And so we left Lincoln for a little bit during that time, but it was in Denver where we kind of got our experience, or I got my experience in long form editing, doing like entertainment and show work, which is not what I'd done in the past. It's like, it had always been like short, quick cuts. And so it was a really good experience. But even during that time, it was like, I was still doing work in Lincoln. So Lincoln was always like calling me back. And so I remember it was like a year after we moved out there, I got a job with the University of Nebraska doing some campaign work, and it's just me, then. And so I remember this was like when Rachel and I were engaged, even because I was living out there before, and I would take the train back on Friday evening, because you can take the Amtrak, take the train back, shoot weddings, do work with the college, and then go back on Monday morning to the job that I was working, doing editing out there. And it was a lot, but I think Lincoln has just like always kind of like called us back, or called me back in terms of a place to do business. I've always been like, man, if I love the mountains, I love Colorado, I love the air out there and everything, but it's not a place that I love to do business. Like being in Lincoln, it's always been that you can call anybody, you can talk to anybody. The competition is still there, but it's not like I don't know, like huge, right? So it's like we could be somebody and make a difference, and it's just the people that you get to know. And when you see people, like I don't go out, I'm sure you don't, like there's no way you could go out anymore, but I can't go out anymore in Lincoln without actually seeing somebody I know to say hey, and like and I love that. It's just like
that's part of part of the charm that I've found in Lincoln. I've lived in several other cities, most recently having come back out of the Austin, Texas area, in Round Rock, Texas, and coming back home. And this is one of the things that I tell young people about, why should they live and work here as opposed to anywhere else they could be. Well, it's pretty easy to get spun up and make an impact and get connected with people in Lincoln. And I'm not just saying that because I'm the chamber guy. Yeah. Compared to other cities, we are a flat city.
It's a place that you can still make a difference and mold and change the actual city. And I remember we were on I think an artist told me that, because we were actually filming for the Chamber of Commerce on one of the earlier tourism spots. And we'd found this location and talked to this guy, and he had made those comments, and I was like, yeah, that's so true. Like you can still like change and mold and grow Lincoln, which is really cool. Whereas in Denver, it's just like, I was just like nobody,
Tell me, let's talk more about Cuemotion as a company. Like, are there other than doing amazing podcasts and Chamber of Commerce videos, like are there areas of specialty as a company, or maybe a market niche that you try to fill with the company?
I feel like our niche has kind of like changed over the years. It's like we kind of used to say we're bringing cinematic content to brands and entertainment, right? So the approach has always been, well, like how can we bring like high quality cinematic style like videos to people that maybe couldn't afford it otherwise, right? So it's like if we have the gear and we're good at it, like how can we bring that to everybody? And so like that's kind of always been our approach, I guess, to like take whatever project we can and say how can we like make this look amazing, no matter what. Right. And so, I think we did that on our very first, because we had a really big chamber, our first like chamber tourism spot. Right. Yeah. And that was a lot of fun and challenging for us to do. But like that, we kind of like jumped into a tourism niche when we did that. And so, it's hard to say like what's our niche. I think it's just like, trying to bring great content to every project and everything that we do, because every project's different. And so we don't really say no that often, because I think that we can bring a high value to everything. So I don't know.
How many people work at Cuemotion?
Yeah. So we have 2 editors right now. So 2 full-time editors that are just doing Cuemotion. That's Chris and Michael, and they're awesome. And then for productions, we just scale up and down, and we have a few people that we like, to use, that we use often. Trevor, he's back there right now. Shout out to, he's he's one of my least favorite employees, but he's here doing the thing. But no, so like I have about I think like on call probably like 8 to 10 people that I will call on depending on the budget, right? So if it's a higher budget, I call different people because they cost more and they're going to be better and bring a better value to it. And so, it really just, it really depends. So, and I think that we kind of do our productions based off of, I feel like, what you might do like a film, right?
Mm-hmm.
Your films don't have employees really; they just have like contractors that work and do their jobs. And so we like doing it that way because we're really able to scale up and down. But I mean, we're looking to hire some other jobs, some AE work and things like that. But
and I'd imagine most, not every video is the same. Not every video has the same audience or the same, call to action.
Right.
So there's probably a lot of customization on every project that you're trying to
Yeah.
hit differently. That probably influences the team you pull in on any given project.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, so lately we've been doing a lot of work with agencies.
Yeah.
And that's a lot different because we'll still bring our creativity, but it's much more about like execution.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Whereas like the work that we do with the Chamber of Commerce, we kind of have that middle ground where it's like we feel like we can provide creative, right? And we can figure out how to write scripts and we can figure out how to like write copy and do all that. And so we get to be a lot more in the process of creative, whereas like agency work, we're just figuring out more like execution and shots and things like that, lighting and everything. So it's because they always come with the creative, and so they'll have the script and they'll have the storyboards, which I love, because usually they send them to you as like these like really terrible like just pictures that they have from the internet, right? And so you get to kind of like try and figure out how you're going to make that work. But so I think every single client that we get these days, we just kind of like figure out how can we grow from it and how we can get better and bigger as we do that. So
I look at my outsider's view of this industry, and I think about the the quality of cameras that are now in phones and the ease of accessibility and comparatively low cost of really high impact software for people that know how to use it. I can't use any of this stuff, but people that get skilled in that can really jump in. How's this industry changed just maybe even in the time that you've been in it? I'd imagine it's pretty significant.
Yeah. I mean, definitely. I mean, because when I was in high school, we were recording on high 8 tracks, right? Like from the camcorders. And so I used to have to log and capture, play back the tape to capture it on the computer. Now, of course, clearly like the technology's changed, a lot, right? But I think like one thing that I always have to remind myself, because it just feels like you're right. Every year, like the iPhone, I'm like, why don't we just shoot on iPhones, or like, why don't we just film on this or that? Because like, in reality, it's like cameras are looking really, really good. And the consumer or prosumer market is like really, really close to like the pro level, cameras.
Yeah.
And so I think like, what I always remember and remind myself is like the kind of like the experience that I've learned over the years. And like, you hear this all the time. And I feel like sometimes it's like, okay, like enough, but like story is always at the front and center of every single like video, right? So it's like, how can you tell that story in a creative way, whether it's with your iPhone or whether it's with $100,000 camera, right? Mm-hmm. So it's just like, sure, there's a lot of tools that can help you do that, but ultimately it comes down to like remembering that for us, it's like it's all about like telling that story, and whether we have like cheap camera on set or really expensive cameras. So and that's always a challenge.
So then just kind of on that note, what's next? There's been all the talk about what AI can do or not do, or AI images of people that have trouble with the number of fingers and things.
Yeah,
is that going to end up being a tool that production companies like this start to leverage in different ways? Even really capture two people talking, for example, but completely change the background, so we're sitting at the Vatican or somewhere. What's coming in this industry that a small business like yours would be able to take advantage of? Yeah,
so those are all things that are going to happen, right? Or already are happening. I mean, AI is changing the way that we produce. Certainly. I mean, like right now, things that we're already using is the voice replication system. So like AI voiceover is like.
Is that why I sound so good on every episode?
Yes, every time we enhance it, and you just like, no, but what? And we've already used this like a few times where it's like, you'll have your voiceover, you'll have your read, and maybe they didn't say it right, or maybe you need to fill something, and you can clone a voice and just fill that gap in and cover it with B-roll, and it's like it's like they're talking.
Oh wow!
And so and we've used it too. We'll use it more for like rough drafts AI. So like you can just, instead of like having to do a scratch track, you can have a nice sounding AI voiceover. And so I think we've utilized AI the most, but like within like certain editing softwares, there's like Adobe, right? Where you can, now they have it, and I haven't used it because Yes. What do you? Oh, sorry. Like in Adobe, and we don't edit in Adobe, but I've seen these features on there where you can generate fill. Like let's say your clip is like 2 seconds short, you can expand it out, and it should technically. I haven't used it because a lot of times you have these like features. You're like, oh, this is gonna be great, and then it looks terrible. You're like almost there, but they're getting it to where you can like expand shots for a couple seconds and like generate those clips just further if you don't have the space for it. So I think it's great. I think like I've put a lot of thought into this, and I'm like, we want to use AI to help us be better and like do things more efficiently. But one thing I never want to get away from, and I think people will have kind of like a knee-jerk reaction to this too once AI becomes super like prevalent, is like just the nuances and the mess ups of being real. So I think that there's always going to be the market, and in my opinion, for real video and real like people talking, and it's like, because you can already now generate podcasts with people talking, right? You can have AI modules like say, hey, make me a podcast, and it sounds like a real podcast, but it's all just fake. So I think there's going to be a lot of pushback from that, and just wanting like authenticity and realness, and mistakes, because like I think that's a big part of like just being human,
being comfortable with. I think authenticity is the word. I think back on, it's so easy to shoot off a thank you email today. It's rare that people will take the time and sit down and write a card, and so is that kind of taking a step back to how we have to used to do it? Does it get you noticed? People find different ways to succeed in that.
People are writing bills now, handwritten. I don't know if you noticed this, so that you'll open it. Sorry.
Nice.
So companies will handwrite their bills.
See, whatever rises above the noise, right? So I promised gotcha questions. I'm gonna go back on that. I'm gonna make a liar out of myself. Because you've done a lot of work with us as an organization. And we've spent a lot of time working together on various projects, and that's been great. So you've seen the chamber and the totality of the work that happens here, whether it's economic development with the Lincoln Partnership for Economic Development or Visit Lincoln and that team and what they do. So as a small business in Lincoln, as a business leader in Lincoln, what do you think is the biggest value that you get out of working with the chamber or being a chamber member? Why be a chamber member if you're talking to your colleagues that own businesses?
Right. Well, so why be a chamber member? Here we go. I think like anything that you sign up for and that you do, you have to be willing to like get out and put in the work to actually take advantage of it, right? If you're just a chamber member and that's it, you're kind of just going to be a chamber member and that's it.
And we still love you if that's what you do.
I mean, it's great that you're supporting. Yeah, please do that. Please do that. But in general, like you just like being out and seeing, and clearly like when we go out and we film, it's a big opportunity for us to kind of meet people just that way and kind of talk and kind of build connections that way. But just in general, taking advantage of and actually going to the events and networking and I am I think in the past, like the idea of like networking was kind of like networking, so it's like I want a different word for it, because I think that like it feels kind of gross, but when you can approach it differently, I mean, like you're there, like getting to know people and building community, and that's really what it's about. And a lot of times those connections that you make, maybe you just make a friend out of them, or maybe one day they actually pay off because they'll remember you, down the road. But it's really valuable for anybody, I think, to be a part and actually like go to the events and get to know people and like take advantage of what you guys, offer specifically for them. Because I mean, that's really what it's about. And just, don't be a schmooze, right? Just like get out and like get to know people and genuinely care about them, because I think that shows.
I always tell people with respect to those types of events, like if you can get away, if you can find something that we're doing that authentically interests you, it is fun to be able to peel away from the day-to-day grind of what you're in your business to do and the things you're an expert in, and take just a step back and think a little bit more broadly about what this community is like. And I think that's what a lot of our program is. But we always hope, and we love to hear it when this actually happens, of people that, connected our events, and maybe it's right away, maybe it's several weeks or even years later,
Yeah.
that they become business colleagues in some way, or customers and providers in some way. So,
I mean, I think that's kind of like what happened to us, right?
Yeah.
And it's been a great relationship. I think like we could have approached our work with the chamber as like, we're going to go out and make some kind of like lame chamber, like videos. Right.
Yeah.
But like, that's not it. It's more like, what can we do to like really like do something cool for the Chamber of Commerce and like, like have some fun here. And so that's why I think like the very first spot that we did, it was so like well received because people were like, whoa, this is coming out of the Chamber of Commerce.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And, I look back at the budget of that now. I'm like, oh, but when you're working in this industry and you're doing what you love, and it's not about like budgets, right? It's about just like doing what we love, and so it's like budgets help because it helps us keep doing it.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know. I think that we put our heart into, I feel like, every single project, but most projects.
I think that's one of the fun things about what we do, because a lot of the time we're organizing things. Obviously,
Mm-hmm.
we're commissioning projects, if you will, but really what we're trying to do is highlight what's going on in the community.
Yeah.
And sooner or later, that's going to help benefit one of our business members, one of the businesses in the community, and hopefully grow this economy.
Yeah.
So
I mean, where'd you come from?
Sydney, Nebraska, west end of the state.
Okay. So like, what was the big difference from coming to that to here and taking this role for you? And
well, so compared to where I grew up when I was a kid, I mean, Lincoln was the big city.
Yeah.
Like that's that was always the big dream, and I loved being in this community. I was here between 96 through the end of 12, and that's when my career took me to 3 other states to do this, and it's been so much fun to come back.
Yeah, it's so funny, the perspective of Lincoln being the big city, because coming from Dallas, it was like, it's like way smaller, right?
Yeah.
And so when people are like, oh, the big city, it's a funny. I always love that.
Awesome. Well, Andy, thank you for stepping out from behind the camera.
Sure.
We'll hope to maybe do this again sometime.
Yeah, loved it.
It's been a great conversation.
Yeah, no more
today.
questions. That's it, huh? That was fast.
Well, one more question.
Yeah.
Where, if people want to find out more about what Cuemotion's doing, where can they go for more information?
Yeah, so it's Cuemotion.com, CUE motion. A lot of people start it with a Q. It's a big. So now I just say, C. CUEmotion.com is where you can go. Our website, and contact us there, and do some work or something.
Awesome.
It's fun.
Andy, thank you again.
Yeah.
This has been Jason Ball and Andy Seiler at the Lincoln Chamber of Commerce in the AOI Podcast Studio. We will see you next time.